I got a video testimonial from a lady out of the UK, and she came back. The first minute of the video was like, okay, I'm in the process of quitting smoking. So if anybody has ever quit smoking, you know that that's usually not a fun, enjoyable process. It's not the time that a supplement company would be interested in getting a testimonial from you. And so, palm plant against the forehead where I'm like, oh, great, this is not going to be a good testimonial. She went on to provide a really amazing testimonial, and the piece that sits in right with what you're talking about, she said that she has a longer fuse with her kids. And that's that, that ongoing stress, that ongoing perturbation that's causing some sort of problems, and you understand you're not handling at your best. She said that it caused her to have a longer fuse with her child. And I thought that's great.
What is going on, everybody? Guys, welcome back this week to another amazing, very insightful, very informative, and very important episode of the Superhuman Life. As always, guys, I'm your host, Frank Rich. And before we jump in today, guys, let me just remind you how incredibly grateful we are to have you here with us today. Guys, this is the only podcast in the world that is dedicated to helping men find breakthroughs in faith, fitness, finance, family, and freedom so they can unlock their true potential and step into a life that they were created to live. And guys, today's episode, we're going to talk about not just living your purpose, not just living your calling, but how to do it, not forever, but for as long as possible. So yes, we're going to tap into the topic of longevity here today. And we have an incredibly fascinating guest. Some call him the mad scientist, but don't let the lab coat fool you, because Chris Burres is the owner of SES Research, which is the first company to deliver carbon nanomaterials. And he's also the founder of MyVitalC, the world's first nano antioxidant. Now, Chris has an extensive background in a diverse range of areas, including mechanical engineering, comedy improv, oil and gas explosives, and competitive soccer, just to name a few. Now, Chris also co-hosts the most popular internet marketing podcast on iTunes since 2009. Now, when Chris realized that a Nobel Prize-winning chemical tested by NASA had been proven to almost double the lifespan of mammals, he decided to make SES 60 into a household item. He's now on a mission to help people live longer, healthier, and pain-free lives, one dose at a time. So yeah, guys, talking about 90% extension in life. So we talk a little bit about what is this SES 60? What is this molecule, this nano molecule that he's describing here? We talk about the original discovery of it, how it then went on to land and win a Nobel Prize, and then how some of the early work had nothing to do with human consumption. And it wasn't until a toxicity study showed that it wasn't toxic to mammals that it then become marketable out there in the world. So we unpack the entire story and journey of Chris and his business partner of really finding this, discovering this, and then taking it to market. And then obviously, guys, because the research was done on rats, we talk about, is the research done on rats, is it applicable to human beings? And if so, how can we kind of dissect this and what can we learn from this? We also talk about how early we should begin taking some of these supplements and where we can find it, in addition to so much more, guys. So if you're looking to biohack your life, if you're looking to improve the quality of your sleep, if you're looking to improve your mental acuity, your mental focus throughout the day, then tuning in today and learning about CS 60 and ESS 60 is an important topic, important conversation for you guys to take part in. So much to unpack here. Incredibly excited to share today's conversation with you with none other than co-founder of MyVitalC, Chris Burres. Hope you guys enjoy. And then obviously, guys, if you want to get some of MyVitalC, if you're interested after listening to today's conversation, guys, you can check out Chris's company at myvitalc.com/TSHL. And by using code TSHL, you can save $15 off of a single product purchase or a subscription. That's myvitalc.com/TSHL. Use discount code TSHL for $15 off of a subscription or single product purchase. But let's get on to today's conversation with the founder of MyVitalC, Chris Burres. We'll see you guys on the other side. Chris, my brother, welcome to the Superhuman Life.
Frank, thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to a conversation that goes in different places than probably I've ever been on other conversations.
Yeah, and the audience knows, because this is something that I've shared here openly. As a host, one thing I do come into every show with a goal of is getting something out of you that hasn't been shared before. I don't always tell the guest that is something that's kind of like upstairs, and I'm going to kind of see like, okay, how can I get this guy to say something he's never said before? But I've done a lot of, studying and research on you. I've listened to quite a few of your other shows. Obviously, you were with very close friend of mine, Chris Wilson, over on Strong by Design, which was an amazing conversation that you and him had. But obviously, I want to get into, your company, MyVitalC, everything. I'm sorry, MyVitalC,
Yep.
everything you guys are doing over there. This incredible molecule, this Nobel Prize-winning research that you weren't involved in, but has kind of led you to starting this company. But I think where I would really like to start with you is let's set some context on who Chris Burres is. When I look at your bio here, I see mechanical engineering, I see stand-up comedy, improv artist, oil and gas explosives. You got some competitive soccer. Obviously, you got a white lab coat on, so mad scientist. But I also run a marketing podcast since 2009. So I'm curious, Chris, where in life did something go right or wrong for you to end up here today with all of that on your resume?
Well, that's a great question. I think you could say that it's both wrong and right, and couldn't be more right? Like,
Amen.
I think it's a testament to a lot of people feel that their life has to be mapped out and that it's going to go exactly the way it needs to go, or that they've planned it to go, and they struggle when it doesn't go that way. I always use the example of a business plan. My business partner and I wrote a plan back in 1991. It was based mostly on sales to the University of Houston. And to this day, we have yet to sell to the University of Houston, right? And don't get me wrong, doing a business plan is an absolute necessity in my mind. What it does is, I think what people don't realize is you may be redoing it in less than 3 months, meaning like, hey, all of our sales are going to come from U of H, University of Houston, and then none of them are. So now on, month 2, we're rewriting it and saying, okay, well, Dartmouth is interested. They're purchasing from us. MIT is purchasing from us. Okay, so that just restructures the business plan. The business plan is about having the patience, if you will, taking the time to make a plan, right? And then being able to redo that plan. So yeah, in some sense wrong, because that was never part of my plan. But also, I didn't really have the strongest plan, if I'm honest. So I knew from a very young age I was going to be an entrepreneur. And I went to college and chose engineering because it was the fastest way to the highest salary, so I could then have money to invest in a company, to get a company started. And I never really dawned on me that I would start that company while I was still in college. So in 1991, I met my business partner, Robert Wong. We started SES Research, and we're off and running. So 1991 was when we're putting together the business plan. We thought we were working with U of H. We both went to U of H, met at U of H, and he was actually at the time working at the Texas Center for Superconductivity, which is housed inside the University of Houston. And yeah, that's where we launched down this business path. Had you asked me at that point, or told me at that point, you are eventually going to be in supplement sales, I would say you're crazy. Like, that's just, I don't see the path from here to there. And what do you know? It went all wrong. And it's actually great. Like, what I do on a day-to-day basis, and what I hear from our customers and the benefits they're experiencing, I couldn't be luckier.
No, I love that. I love that so much. And the self-awareness that you had back in school to know, like, okay, here's the quickest path to get the highest salary, but it's not the long-term play for me. This is going to be the salary. This is going to be the money that I need to start the business. Like, I knew probably from 7, like, that entrepreneurs, it was either going to be professional sports. And then I kind of got, knocked upside the head, like when I got into high school, and it was like, no, like, let's be real now. Like, there's a genetic, lack of certain genetic potential, maybe I'm now limiting myself here, because now that I kind of look back, I probably, if I had the work ethic when I was 16 that I have when I'm 38 now, I probably could have broke through. But I did always know that was going to be entrepreneurship. I didn't think that college had any role in me becoming an entrepreneur. So I at 20, was already in the kind of corporate world. What was it about you growing up? Was entrepreneurship in the family, or why would you say that you knew early on that was going to be the path that you took?
I think this is an interesting story. A lot of the interesting part of it is I don't know how it happened. So on my wall, like a lot of 14-year-olds at my age at that time, was a Lamborghini Countach, right? So I wanted a Lamborghini Countach.
How old are you, Chris, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 52. Right. So it was a long time ago. Lamborghini Countach. I don't have one yet. I've kind of changed that goal. But there it is on my wall. And somehow I found an article that was, how do you get a Lamborghini Countach? Now, this is pre-internet. So here's I don't know how that happened. How do you even come across? I didn't go to the library and research this. I don't think, although, I mean, if that ended up being true, that is my nature to go find information.
It probably was a doctor's office, magazine or something. You probably were sitting there with your mom, just kind of going through, Car and Driver magazine as a little 8, 9, 10-year-old kid. I remember doing that stuff.
Exactly. And they said, in that article, they were like, hey, if you want to have a Lamborghini Countach, you can be a brain surgeon or something along those lines, which, has a very long schooling in front of it. Or you can be an entrepreneur and have two. And so, I mean, if you're just not doing the math about how hard the work is going to be or whatever, you're like, well, this path as compared to this path has two. And so that's kind of how I knew that I was going to be an entrepreneur. So, in hindsight, if I were a neurosurgeon, I would probably have one by now. And my goal is still to have, I've changed because I really enjoy Teslas. And so my new desired car is the Roadster.
Got it. No, I love that. Love that, man. I feel you and I could go that direction, and this would be an incredible conversation. But I want to obviously speak as to the reason why you're here. So you have this supplement company called MyVitalC, which has some incredible testimonies. It has some incredible research. So I'm going to let you kind of, maybe just kind of start. For one, how did you meet your business partner? And then how did you guys kind of come across the beginning stages of discovering the molecule? I know you didn't really discover it, but yeah, kind of tell us the early story genesis of starting MyVitalC.
Yeah, so I'll always remember how I met Robert. And by the way, I'm going to backtrack just a little bit because I have no problem with people being materialistic, right? I want to add to, my desire to have a Lamborghini or a Roadster is also perfectly paired with how much I tend to desire helping people, right? So that was born out of it. I think it would be much more, I don't know, socially acceptable story. It was I just grew up knowing I was going to help people. No, it was driven by the car. And I also ended up in exactly where I need to be, where I end up helping people. So I think that's an important piece.
I really appreciate you adding that, Chris. Because what I know, and obviously this will come out in the conversation, you don't want to have a Lamborghini so that you can sell more supplements, because we know obviously there's an entire industry centered around on the internet today of, I have this flashy car, now buy whatever this product is that will then make you be able to buy one of these cars. And what most people don't know, because I know I'm in the internet marketing space and I have been for half a decade now. I know a lot of these guys that are taking these photos behind the car or in front of the car. 90% of the time, the car's not theirs. It was $1,000 rental for a day. Anybody has the ability to go drive a Lamborghini. No matter what major city that you're in, there's luxury car rental services. So from somewhere between $500 to $1,500 a day, you can get anything from a Mercedes C63, Mercedes S-Class. I've had friends that have rented Bentleys, for obviously not to take photos with it, because we do know that there are people that do that. But no, I really appreciate you adding that context there, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think it's important. And you're right; it's gonna come through in the rest of the story. So, so my business partner and I met in a physics class at the University of Houston. Go Cougs, right? And I'll always remember the physics professor's name because I felt he was destined to be a physics professor. His name was Dr. Weinstein. I just feel like that guy was born to be a physics professor. and we met in that class, and my business partner started working for the Texas Center for Superconductivity. That is an organization that was really built around a guy by the name of Dr. Paul Chu. He's very famous in superconductivity realms. And we actually used to call that building, that whole infrastructure, Chu's Castle on the University of Houston campus, because they built it for him. And at the time, my business partner was separating fullerenes, and we can talk about that here in a second, but was separating fullerenes. And those fullerenes, at least the purified form, were selling for about $6,000 a gram, which is a lot.
Yeah.
And at one point, the Professor Chu came in and he said to Robert, and Robert was working with a friend of ours named Diego. He goes, "Hey, you guys are young guys. This is selling for $6,000 a gram. You guys should go make a company to do this." And my business partner is from an entrepreneurial background, and so like he was off and running. So I wasn't in the picture yet, but they started putting it together. The way that you manufacture this material requires local temperatures of the sun, and so it requires engineering. How do we get all this heat away from this actual reaction? And that's when I got involved. Studying mechanical engineering. They needed drawings. We needed to have equipment made, and I was supposed to help with that and then go away. What happened was Diego went away, and I stayed. In fact, and again, we're still good friends with Diego. So that's where we started the company and made our first material in 1991.
Got it. So at the time, were you guys? Did you jump right into C60, or what's the background story of? Yeah. I guess it was ESS 60, and then it became C60. So let's bring the context there, and then we'll go on.
Absolutely. So, let's roll back. So this molecule, if anybody's watching, I'm holding up what looks like a molecule of a soccer ball. If you're listening, just imagine a soccer ball where the lines on the soccer ball represent the bonds between the carbon atoms. So you have a spherical molecule of 60 carbon atoms. This is called carbon 60. It's kind of affectionately called a buckyball, named after Buckminster Fuller. The guys who discovered it in 1985 here in Houston at Rice University. And those three professors who discovered it ultimately won the Nobel Prize for that discovery. So they discovered it in 85. They won the Nobel Prize in 1996. So 11 years from discovery to actually being awarded the Nobel Prize. The material's absolutely amazing. So it's harder than a diamond. It turns into a diamond. It's got six-fold symmetry. So there's 6 planes through this soccer ball-shaped molecule where it's an exact mirror of itself. That gives it an incredible resilience. You can actually fire it at a plate of steel at 30,000 miles. I think it's 15,000 miles per hour. Where most molecules will just shred apart, this one will just compress and bounce right back. So it's incredibly resilient. I like to say that it performs as well or better than the current best material in almost every application. Better ink, better tires, better batteries, and better photocells. And so, we were manufacturing this material. We're selling it to research institutions around the world. I mentioned MIT. If there's a research organization on the planet that you've heard of, if they're doing research, if at any point they've done research on fullerenes, and most of them probably have, they purchased that material from us. Now, you fast forward, you're like, okay, well, how does this even have anything to do with the supplement? Because you just said batteries and photocells. Those seem very desperate kind of subjects. They assumed actually that this molecule for various reasons would be toxic. And so they did a toxicity study out of the University of Paris, and they published the results of that toxicity study in 2012. So in that study, they gave rats water, rats olive oil, and then rats olive oil with this molecule. And we start to kind of make a demarcation of C60 is for industrial applications. ESS 60 is what you might want to consume or give to an animal. So they gave these rats olive oil with ESS 60 in it. Instead of being toxic, the rats that they gave it's the MyVitalC formula to, lived 90% longer than the control group. And there's a couple kind of facts that tend to come out when I'm talking $6,000 a gram is a huge amount. A 90% extension of life is a huge amount. It's the single longest longevity experimental result. in history, the next best way to live longer, and it's got very good research behind it, is calorie restriction. And I'm sure you are working with or talk about intermittent fasting, which is based on the calorie restriction diet. The research, intermittent fasting is still there's lots of work to be done, but it does provide the signatures in the body that full-on calorie restriction has. To date, the best way to extend your life is calorie restriction. I call it the starve yourself 1/3 to death diet. Not many people sign up for that particular, and the data is very clear. You'll probably extend your life by 30% with a calorie restricted diet. We're not talking about 30%, right? And we're not talking about, I don't know, you want to call it pain and suffering or enlightenment that comes from reducing your calorie consumption by 30%. We're just talking about taking olive oil with this ESS60 molecule in it. And not only did those rats, and they're a particular type of rat called Wistar rats, they lived 90% longer. They also died without tumors. Now, you can imagine that's a quantum shift for where we were, right? Happy nanomaterial scientists selling nanomaterials to research institutions around the world. Actually, that looked like it was going to be a small, and still is, a fairly small market. So I went out and started a digital marketing agency, and I'm actually on a podcast, which you kind of alluded to. And that was really kind of scratching that entrepreneurial itch, thinking that this kind of fullerene market is going to be small. And again, from the research side of things, it still is. But at that point, when that 2012 study came out, people started calling us and going, "Hey, how much in a dose?" And in our mind, we're carbon nanomaterial scientists. So we're like, well, you put this in batteries, you put it in photocells, you put it in ink and tires. I'm not really comfortable telling you how much you put in your body like that. I mean, yes, we've got this research, and to be clear, the literature was clear that there is nothing harmful here. But we're conservative scientists, and the way conservative scientists tend to work is often very slow. And so in 2013, that's about the time people started calling us, we actually added not for human consumption to our labeling. So you got to imagine 1991, start company, all the way to 2013, we don't have not for human consumption on our labeling because it was never an issue. In 2013,
and are you guys the only company I'm sorry to interject here. Are you guys the only company in the world at the time that is supplying this?
We were by far the largest company distributing C60 and manufacturing C60 on the planet, and still, in terms of distribution, we're still probably the largest. What's going out in different directions now, but right now, in terms of, especially if you're talking about consumable ESS60, we're the largest manufacturer and distributor on the planet. Yeah. And I think, we've got a scientific pedigree that's behind us. So in 2013, we had not for human consumption. In reality, people were still calling us. They're calling us once or twice a week, and they're saying, hey, my knee pain is gone. Hey, whatever, my migraines are gone. And we're saying, by the way, just let me interject here. The FDA has not evaluated our product. It is not intended to treat, diagnose, cure, or prevent any disease. But we were on the phone with them going, you mean the knee pain of your rat or your rat's migraine? Because it literally says not for human consumption on the labeling. Fast forward, so from 2013 until 2017, latter part of 2017, a guy with a big YouTube following starts talking about all the benefits he was getting taking the product on a daily basis. And then our phone went from once or twice a week ringing to like 10 times a day. And that was kind of the pivot point for us, is like, well, what are we going to do with this, right? We're conservative carbon nanomaterial scientists. We're also entrepreneurs. This is clearly some sort of larger scale opportunity than we ever imagined. And we asked ourselves two questions. And the first is the most important, am I comfortable selling this? I take it. My wife takes it. Everybody on our team here takes it. So yeah, I am comfortable selling it. And then the next is the FDA and the FTC. You got to, dot your I's, cross your T's there. And so we're on the right side of those organizations. And really it was 2018 that we kind of put MyVitalC out on the market and started trying to bring it to the masses.
So you guys were taking it personally, your own prior to, like, when it was still labeled as not for human consumption. You were taking it based upon the research that you had showing some of these benefits that it was having in the rats.
Absolutely. Even as far back as 2013, I was taking some. I'll be honest, in the beginning, I didn't really notice a benefit, and so I stopped taking it. In 2018, started taking it on a regular basis, and this time around, I really did notice a difference. And our manufacturing is certainly better. That number of years later. But it really is. It's something that for some people, we have tested. People ask all the time, like, how quickly am I going to see results? We've got testimonials, like first day video testimonials, where a lady shares, like, she didn't finish her coffee that morning. And if you drink coffee enough that you would mention that you didn't finish your coffee, then you know, like, that's having a positive impact. And then, like, in a number of cases, we'll get people who are maybe 2 months into the product and they're sharing, oh, maybe I didn't. In fact, our largest distributor, I like her story. She's based here in Houston, and she actually ordered the product originally for her dog. She's got a Shih Tzu, and she noticed such a profound difference in her dog that she decided to start taking it herself. And I did a video with her, and she shares in that video where 3 months in, she would have told you that, I really haven't noticed much. But around that time, she started, kind of to slow down and think about what was going on in her life. And she's like, well, I'm staying up a little bit later. I'm getting up early. I never was a morning person. And so she noticed those things. And then the next thing I kind of jokingly say is probably the worst testimonial for a supplement in history, which is she realized she cleaned her garage. And if you've ever had that looming task that's in front of you and understand what a relief it is to get on the other side of that looming task, there's something there, right? It's either a mental hang up. Your last podcast, or at least the last one I heard, talked about kind of deservedness. I'm not worthy of a clean garage or whatever. There's something holding you back, or you're just tired. Like in general, if you're tired, you're not going to go and clean that garage. So, yeah, that's where she came in and said, this is when I noticed that there's something different. We also get people who will go off of the product and then write to us and tell us, okay, so I didn't think I noticed anything, but when I went off the product, that's when I really noticed something. So they're back on it and back on subscription.
Yeah, and God, this is really like driving me to ask a very specific question here, and I know it's probably going to be difficult for you to give me a clear, definitive answer, but what you're speaking to here is, like maybe I don't want to say you found some motivation through this chemical, but that looming task, like I love the, like you described it as a looming task, like you're kind of looking at the stack of boxes that you got to work through, or you got to look at the stack of clothes that you got to fold, or just kind of thinking about, like, a lot of the men that I serve and help. It's like, okay, I got to have this difficult conversation with my wife or spouse, or I got to get the resume together. I got to put my CV together so I can go out there and find a job because I'm sleeping at mom's house or whatever. Like all these kind of things. Like, so I know that's an anecdotal, case there with her, but have you seen this like trend across some of your testimonials? And if so, is there something that you can link it to? Is it attaching to a certain neurotransmitter in the brain? Is it, I mean, I'm just throwing terms out here now. Obviously I'm not, scientist like you, but can you, like, have you seen it like more often? And if so, can you speak to what is actually the mechanism or what is taking place to create that, motivation or kind of that, like, I'm ready to kind of go out now and kind of tackle the world?
Yeah. So let me first off say, absolutely, we do have testimonials for that, and there's one that sits right in what you're going after, right? What you're talking about, which is, I got a video testimonial from a lady out of the UK. I gave her the product for free, and she came back, and her first video, like the first minute of the video, was like, okay, I'm in the process of quitting smoking. So if anybody has ever quit smoking, you know that that's usually not a fun, enjoyable process. It's not the time that a supplement company would be interested in getting a testimonial from you, because you're probably going to be, my mom calls it cranky with my kids. You're going to be cranky, upset, irritable, all of those things. And so, palm plant against the forehead where I'm like, oh, great, this is not going to be a good testimonial. She went on to provide a really amazing testimonial. And the piece that sits in right with what you're talking about is she said that she has a longer fuse with her kids. Right. And that's that, that ongoing stress, that ongoing perturbation that's causing some sort of problems, and you understand you're not handling at your best. So yeah, she said that it caused her to have a longer fuse with her child. And I thought that's great. Now, what could be causing that? So there are so many things that could be going on in the brain. We do know that this molecule is small enough and does cross the blood-brain barrier. So that puts it in a position where a lot of things that you might consume don't have the ability to interact and to provide some value. We don't know what it is. It could be as simple as mitochondria, but I'm going to go kind of 50,000 foot view, and then we can get into the mitochondria. So 50,000 foot view is our most consistent testimonial is people say that they take the product in the morning, they report mental focus and energy during the day, and then better sleep that night. Now, a couple of things that are really important about that. First, and you're nodding your head because like sleep. Oh, like that. Honestly, sleep can explain everything.
It just clicked. I'm looking at my sheet here of like side effects, and it's like longevity, better sleep is number 2, and it's like, duh, Frank. Like if you get a better night's sleep, you're gonna have better focus and decision making throughout the day. I solved my own question here, but please continue because you're gonna add so much more.
So
to
a
this.
couple things that's unique, right? So yeah, we all know sleep's good for us, and we can get into sleep. There's a book called Why We Sleep by Dr. Matthew Walker. I don't know if you've read it. It is literally the scariest book you will ever read about sleep. I call it the Freddy Krueger of sleep books. It scares you to go to sleep, though. It doesn't scare you out of sleep. And it talks about the importance of sleep, which is almost immeasurable. You know, it is the best healing and restorative medicine you can possibly take, right? Sleep. And so if you're getting better sleep, then things are going to be really good. He also talks about in that book the $2 billion sleep aid industry. And that's this industry where there's prescriptions. People take these prescriptions right before they go to sleep. And what really happens at a chemical level is there's a chemical called adenosine in our bodies. And throughout the day, adenosine increases. And that's what causes us to desire sleep. These quote unquote sleep aids relieve the chemical pressure of adenosine. So you wake up without the desire for sleep, which would of course be very refreshing, right? Like you went to sleep desiring sleep and you woke up and you now don't desire sleep. The problem is that those things knock you unconscious. They relieve the chemical pressure of adenosine, but they do not allow you to get the REM and the NREM sleep that you need to actually do the healing in your body. So that's a problem. The contrast with our product is ours you actually take in the morning, right? So again, most customers take it in the morning, they report mental focus and energy during the day, and then better sleep that night. I'm aware of 2 things that you can do in the morning to positively impact your sleep that night. One of them is exercise, right? So as opposed to exercise, get some exercise in the morning, you'll sleep better. The other is actually getting exposure to the sun to get your circadian rhythm, right? The rising and falling of the sun in line with your body and the rising of the falling of the sun, and that will help your sleep. Other than that, I'm not aware of things that you can do in the morning to get better sleep. And so our supplement is doing something very different. And maybe it is this next thing, this kind of mitochondrial level. So we do know from some of the studies that are out there that the ESS60 molecule can get into the mitochondria. Just kind of a refresh. Mitochondria is a very specific component of every cell in our body. And it's the powerhouse of the body. So nothing happens in the cell unless your mitochondria is up and functioning. And if you had a room full of mitochondrial physician experts and said, hey, would it be good to have a free radical sponge, an antioxidant, in the mitochondria while it's going through its process? That process is called ATP. Would that be a good thing? And all of them would raise their hand. Yes, that would probably be a good thing. It's kind of like a catalytic converter. Is it a good thing to reduce pollution coming out of your car? Yeah, like that is a good thing because then your car's not polluting. So they would say that that's a good thing, knowing that the ESS60 molecule can get in there and knowing that it's also an antioxidant. And there's kind of varying studies, 125 times or 172 times more powerful than vitamin C as an antioxidant. Then yeah, that now if you start managing tasks and managing the quote unquote pollution of the day-to-day operation of your cells, then you're talking about something that well, one could potentially allow you to get better sleep because maybe there's a phase of sleep. We don't know a lot about sleep, even with an entire book and multiple 25-year careers about it. But maybe it's tackling some of the issues that your sleep tackles before you have to in sleep, and so your body's like, well, that's done, so let's move on to the next thing and have more refreshing and more healing sleep.
Yeah, love that so much. And I've talked a lot about the early morning sunlight as far as like, the things that you can do. Just linking it back to, once again, obviously a lot of the guys that come to me and the clients that we serve and work with, like evenings are a struggle. Like if I can't sleep, like my phone's right there. It's an easy access and outlet to find, endless amounts of videos and whatnot. So we try to really help these guys, have higher qualities of sleep. I want to come back and talk a little bit about the rat study, if you can. Obviously you said that they found that it was a 90% increase. I believe that there were, and you can speak more to this if you don't mind. These rats, when they did end up dying, they didn't have tumors, which was, I think, very common for the type of rats that they were studying. And number one, like why does a study in rats, like what impact does it have for us? Like nobody listening to this is a rat. So what application does a rat study actually have for a human being? And then let's kind of open the conversation up around there.
Yeah, that's a great question, and really, when we launched into this, so the kind of beginning part of 2018, that was one of my chief things that I wanted to understand. Right, so we've got this rat study, a human trial. Like, how do you even run a lifespan trial? Set it up for humans where the lifespan is ostensibly going to be extended by 90%. I mean, that means the average person would live to 152. Right? Like, this is not a study that's going to happen. Well, maybe I don't know. How do you describe this? Does it happen in our lifetime, or this is going to come out of data like what is called meta-analysis, where people start looking at those people who are consuming the ESS60 molecule and looking on the aggregate. Hey, are they living healthier? Are they living longer? That's going to be how that is ultimately proven out. So now we're stuck with this question. Okay, we got this rat study. We do know that there has to be some applicability of rat to human. Otherwise, like the FDA and the general scientific community would not be saying, hey, before you do a human trial, you have to do a rat trial. Like there has to be some applicability. And I got fortunate enough. I ended up on a phone call with a professor, Dr. Kudabek, out of DePaul University. And he actually, I was talking with my business partner. He takes rat studies and brings them into human trials. And so I took the opportunity to hop on him and say, hey, what is, like, you're in the middle of this, right? Like, you're doing that. You're taking this and you're migrating it to this. What is the applicability? And he told me that it's kind of a long story, but he told me this story, which I thought was really interesting. He said, a lot of scientists will hold up one very particular study as proof that what happens in a rat doesn't necessarily happen in a human. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And he goes, well, that particular study was a study for a drug that was a morning sickness reliever, right? So helped relieve morning sickness in pregnant women. And they did this rat study, and there were no problems with the rats, and they started giving it to women in their human trial, and they noticed a small amount of deformities in the fetuses. So obviously, and he said, yeah, a lot of scientists are like, proof. What happens in a rat doesn't necessarily happen in a human. And then he went on to say this. He said, but had they looked at the fetuses of the rats in that rat study, then they would have noticed the deformities in the fetuses, and then they would have never taken it to a human trial. So I think it's just very telling that this professor who's in a position to know what's applicable says the one study that most people reference as proving that what happens in a rat doesn't happen in a human is actually just a misguided study. Like, the study was looking at the wrong data. And I think his overall point was, when you're looking at the wrong data, it's not applicable. And when you're looking at the right data, it is applicable. So I think that's it. And then to dig a little bit more into the actual study done at the University of Paris, it's peer-reviewed, published research, which is kind of the type of research that you want to hang your hat on and use to make decisions about what you're going to consume. Again, the rats live 90% longer. I always like to tip my hat to the researchers, because again, it was a toxicity study. They thought that this molecule would be toxic. And if there's anything that's absolutely 100% true, if your test group, that's the group of rats given the ESS60 molecule in olive oil, all are alive when all of your control group, the rats that are given water, are dead, it's not toxic, right? So your toxicity study is officially done when all of the control group is dead and all of the group that you thought might die early are not dead, right? It's not toxic. Kudos to them because they actually continued to do the animal husbandry for the next 2.5 years to turn into this, single longest longevity experimental result ever. So what was supposed to be a less than 2 year, in the context of a toxicity study, you're thinking they're going to die early, right? That's when your study's done. They didn't die early. A typical Wistar rat lives about 32 months, right? And what's also true of a Wistar rat is they have a known amount of tumors in their body. So the longer they live, the more tumor mass they have in their body. Our rats lived out to 62 months, again, 90% longer, and none of them had any tumors, right? And I think, that's an amazing result, but you got to be careful because a lot of people are like, oh, anti-cancer. And the answer to that is no, absolutely no. That's not what that is saying. And there's a couple reasons to make that clarity. One of them is there's a huge difference between treating a cancer that is metastasized and being a cancer preventative, right? So you work in health, like things as good as sleep and good nutrition and exercise are cancer preventatives. We know that to be true. Also, it's not even true that all of those tumors are cancerous. There could be benign tumors, but that's an important feature of it. What it does indicate is that it has some potential to be a tumor preventer, and that research needs to be done. Again, the FDA has not evaluated us from that perspective. I hope that kind of answered your question.
No, 100%. I just want to maybe follow up here with a couple more around the rats. So, 90%, it went from 36 to 62 months, I think is what you said there. So were they taken, were the rats ingesting it? Were they given it from birth? Were they baby infant rats, when they started taking it, or were they already a year old? And then if so, what does that tell us about, child use? Obviously I'm not saying go give this to infants, but is it safe for kids? Number one, and then what role does maybe when you begin taking it play in the effects, the longevity one, and maybe that will kind of tell us a little bit about the study. Because if you got to take it from birth, that's going to be a really hard study to actually follow all the way through. So yeah, were the rats taking it from birth? And then if so, is it safe for kids? And what role does how early you start taking it have an impact on the benefits that you get?
These are really really good questions, and if I'm going to take a little liberty and read between the lines here, I feel like what you're asking is it too late for me, right? and the answer is no. So this is interesting. In that study, they actually didn't give any of the rats any of whether it's the water, the olive oil, or the olive oil with the ESS60 in it until month 10, right? So that's about a third of a Wistar rat's life, right? And then at month 10, they started giving them, and they gave them kind of accelerated doses, and then they tapered off, and their last dose was at month 17, right? So from about 1/3 of their life to almost 2/3 of the life, they got dosing, and then nothing else, right? And still they lived longer, 90% longer. And to answer your question, because we do get some people asking, hey, is it safe for pregnant women? Is it safe for children? The reality is, if you look at that study, that's that 90% extension of life didn't require that they have it during formative years, right? Month 10, they're actually an adult rat. And so there's just no reason. You always, as a scientist, want to be very conservative. So yeah, don't give it to kids. If you're pregnant or nursing, you shouldn't be consuming it. There is no data to say it's bad. It's just that's the right conservative approach to it. And so, yeah, we're not lost. We can still get some of those benefits. Ultimately, I think we got a puppy about 3 years ago, a mini schnauzer, and I was okay giving it to her from day one, right? So she's getting our dog. We have a dog product. We have a cat product. She's giving our kind of bacon flavored dog product from day one, and I'm okay with that. And I really think that we'll move to a point where, yeah, you can give this to children and nursing women or pregnant women at any point. That's the direction we'll probably go.
God, I love that. And yeah, it was one thing I was really, really shocked to see when when I went to the site and I saw the product line that you guys have. It's more than I thought I was just going to see. Like, oh, there's one supplement capsule. Like, this is it. You can order, 1 bottle, 3 bottles, 6 bottles, but you guys really have, like, I mean, multiple product lines. So knowing that you weren't scientists that just all of a sudden one day like fell into a business here, you talked about creating a business plan and the importance of this. I'm assuming, I do a lot of business coaching and consulting myself here, and it's like every single person that, one of the first things we do is like, we got to identify who your ICA is, ideal client avatar. So back in the beginning, I know obviously 91 was not consumer product. It wasn't really until 2015, 2016 after the YouTube public figure, so forth, went public with his use. So at the beginning, like, did you guys, like, was it specifically creating, was it one person? And if so, who was the original person that you were creating the product for?
Well, so the first and original person that we were creating the product for was a biohacker, right? So those kind of cutting edge people who saw this rat study and frankly had, I don't know if you want to call it more nerve or more vision, or a little bit of both, right? Nerve and vision to say like, hey, that's something that I want to put in my body. So in the early stage, it was really just providing it to a market that had created itself. So really, there was no marketing strategy in there. A couple of things that I like to point out about not having a marketing strategy in the beginning. We weren't out promoting that it did anything, right? So yes, we were getting calls about knee pain and vision and hair and skin and just all sorts of amazing. In the early days, I get to the point where, like, if I keep telling you testimonials, your belief in what I'm saying will continue to decrease, right? Because it's just not believable. In fact, in the early days, I didn't believe it. I'm like, I believe you as a person on the phone with me telling me this story, right? I believe this is the experience you're having, but I don't know what to do with that information. As a scientist, I don't know, like, where do I file it? What is the study that I need to do to support it? Now you understand, well, I think people understand that it's very expensive, right? The kinds of studies that need to be to verify this is very expensive. Having said that, we are moving forward. The next step, I like to point out two things. One, with anecdotes, that is where the scientific process starts, right? You start with anecdotes and you start with, hey, this is happening to these people and they've come to me and told me that this is happening. So then that's how you design your study. That's where you get your hypothesis from. So anecdotes are very important in the scientific process. You need to be careful with them, but they are very important. And then the next piece that is typically happens in the scientific process is some group does a test, right? So we've got this original Paris rat study where the rats live 90% longer. Then the next step is some other lab will step up and do the same test, like recreate the results. Here we are. That hasn't happened yet. And so we're actually moving forward with that process. We're jumping through a couple of hoops, and then we'll get that process started so that we'll end up, hopefully it'll be, we obviously have some tweaks that we would do to that study. But hopefully it'll be a study that, even surpasses 5 years. We think there's some things that we can do to that. That's a big expense. A lot of planning goes into that, but that is our current plan.
Yeah, and circling back there to the beginning of what you're saying, starting with the biohacking community. I mean, obviously, it's an ideal, base, because here's the people, their nutrition's dialed in, sleep is dialed in, training's dialed in, like all these other important boxes are checked. So it's going to reveal to you very quickly, does this work or does it not? Like, you're going to get some real feedback. So can you speak to maybe the importance of checking these other boxes? Like, somebody's hearing this, they're like, okay, I'm going to improve my sleep, but I'm going to eat junk food 10 minutes before going to sleep. I'm going to have blue lights. I'm going to literally have the TV on and music playing in the room. I'm not going to, I'm not going to get outside during the day. So they're not going to do anything that we should be doing first and think that they're going to take a supplement and it's going to improve the quality of sleep and it's going to extend their life. So can you speak to maybe some of the importance of getting the other boxes checked first, and then how that will actually maybe improve the results of your product, and or maybe slow down if you aren't checking those boxes first?
Well, yeah, I think, living a healthy lifestyle is a decision that's really important to make if you want to have a healthy life, right? Like that at the end of the day, I mean, let's talk about a healthy life and how that impacts people who initially hear this story, right? I'll share that these rats live 90%, and a lot of people are like, why would I want to live 90% longer? Like, what's up? Like, why would I want to do that? Which is very weird for me because, again, for whatever reason, at a very young age, I got the idea of 125 in my head, right? I don't know where it came from.
So that's your number.
The same magazine, right?
Yeah.
And so, if I'm honest, 125 wasn't going to look that good, right? Like the picture that I had of living that long was, involved a wheelchair, involved oxygen tanks, involved all of these things. And I think when you start putting it in that perspective and you start talking about living 90% longer, I understand why people will ask, why would I want to live longer? But if you share with people, hey, if you had the same mental capacity that you have today and you had the same physical capacity that you have today, would you then be interested in living longer? And that's when the shift has, right? We're working on, there's a book called Lifespan by Dr. David Sinclair. It's talking about separating our beliefs about living longer and our beliefs about getting, aging and living a decrepit life. And it's important to start separating those things because I think they don't have to be one and the same, right? And I don't think there's a person on the planet, and I'm included, who would say, hey, just take this, you'll be good. You don't have to take care of those other pieces. I think maybe, we talked a little bit about some kind of I don't know what the right phrase is, bearing in mind the FDA, but, getting the right garage cleaning chemistry going on in your head, right? Like getting that good sleep, getting that chemistry to check off those boxes could potentially be an important part of that, right? So, but getting sleep is paramount, and I can share with you, I don't have a TV in my room because I just don't think in my bedroom because I don't think a TV is a good thing to have in your bedroom. Like I really, a lot of experts will tell you the bedroom is for two things only. One of them sleeping, right? And that's it. So I think I do think those other things are paramount. And honestly, I think it would make sense if you are not going to like start checking those boxes and continually be improving, then don't take a supplement. Not even my supplement. Don't even take supplements. Like that's not. I mean, unless the doctor has prescribed like you need to be taking, I don't know, zinc or B12 or whatever. But like get all of these ducks in a row, and this could potentially be part of that.
Yeah, in all reality, like if you're listening to this conversation at this point, you're still with us. Like you're probably checking a vast majority of those boxes are already, because if you're going to commit the time to listening to this conversation and you're investing into the right type of content, the right type of things, hopefully, although I know that there's a large portion of people out there that are just in the consuming mode. They just consume information and never really do anything with it. Chris, what do you see the future here? I mean, you guys are so. I mean, you're truthfully like you're in the infant stages, man. Like at the end of the day, I know obviously the original company was back in '91, so 30 plus years of you and your business partner. But we're talking 5, 6, maybe years of it being a consumer product. So what's that journey been like from the beginning? What have you learned about the product, about entrepreneurship, about running a business? And then what do you kind of like, where do you guys kind of see the future going with the supplement?
Well, I really, something that the company has to do, and you think about the marketing strategy behind, we never really finished that piece, right? Originally it was biohackers, and now we're honing in on the market. Like it is a challenge to sell this product, right? In a short form process, right? So on this podcast, it's great. People can get to know me, know that I didn't really want to be in the supplement industry. I actually tried for a number of years not to get in the supplement industry. I believe that people get in the supplement industry one of two ways. One of them is they decide they're going to be wealthy and they're going to do it with supplements. I have no problem with people being wealthy. That's just not how I ended up here. The other is somebody has some sort of health problem, or maybe the health problem of a loved one, and they go out and they do the research and they find a solution, and now they want to save the world. Hopefully it doesn't surprise you. I'm not against people wanting to save the world. It's just not how I ended up here. We've been manufacturing this ESS60 molecule since 1991, and they do this crazy toxicity study. And now I'm just trying to get this information out to people so they can try it. But that takes kind of a longer form. So we're actually coming up with different packaging, right? So we've got a focus and energy packaging. And for those looking, I'm just holding up a product that says focus and energy, better sleep, exercise recovery. I actually have an interesting testimonial about exercise recovering from an ultra running champion, and then hangover helper for those people who, didn't check that box this week, that healthy box this week. The testimonial for exercise recovery is very interesting. This guy called me. His name's Anthony Kunkel. He's a 2-time U.S. ultra running champion. And he was in love with the product right away. We started getting it to him, and he's just providing testimonials to us. And one of his testimonials is, I don't believe that this helps in exercise recovery. I believe it prevents damage in the first place. And he goes on to say, what I mean is, before when leg stability and strength were a problem on the last, say, 5 miles of a 50-mile run, which is a phrase I don't hear very often, now it's not a problem. And so with the MyVitalC, he's not experiencing those problems. He's totally incorporated. He just wrote a really like a 2-page article on how he went on the product, went off of it, tested, how he tests in journals and keeps track of everything. This is kind of biohacker to the precise, documentation, and how he knows this is beneficial and how he's using it for his 25-mile runs, 50-mile runs, and it's pretty impressive to see somebody operating at that level who's incorporating MyVitalC into helping him. So kind of longer term, it's really, we're very much in a personality driven marketing environment, right? So to have a name and face behind the company. And so obviously I'm the name and face of MyVitalC. And now it's how do I get, and ultimately, if the marketing strategy doesn't need my name and face, it's not about that. It's about getting the right thing. So we're working on, and I know that you've got actually a marketing funnel that you're using because one of your pages was ClickFunnels, right? We're working on that type of stuff. How do I get this into more people's hands? Because I think it was about 2 months ago, I pulled some stats, and 44% of our customers, between 44 and 47% of our customers have been with us for 22 months. This is unheard of in the supplement industry, right? And
Any industry.
Yeah, right. It's amazing testament to that people are actually experiencing good things when they're on the product.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, your AOV numbers just got it because I know the product's not. I mean, it's not expensive. It's obviously worth what you're spending, but it's not a cheap product. So at a 22-month stick rate, the AOV on that's has got to be incredible. Chris, I'd love to connect with you offline, man, and see if there's anything we can help you with on maybe some of the marketing side. I had a friend of mine just exited his company for it's non-disclosed, but whispers are around it. So it was a 9-figure supplement exit. So, and it was all done direct response through marketing funnels, affiliate marketing, very, very similar to what you guys are doing.
I think I heard about that exit recently. So we'll talk about that offline.
Yeah. Very, 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 very close friend. Chris, this has been amazing. Want to bring it home here and obviously direct people to learn more about you, to where they can find the product. We do have one question that we end every single episode here. So if people are interested, obviously we'll link up all of your show notes, and I'm going to include some of the other interviews because we didn't get a lot into the sciencey stuff because that's out there. Like you've done an incredible job of getting on some of those shows. So like I said, I wanted to get in some of the other things that you haven't really discussed here. So I'll include down there in the show notes, guys, some of the ones that I really enjoyed learning from. But where can people learn more about, your company? Where can they buy the product? I know we talked about a link and a promo code. So please share all that, and then we'll bring it home with our last question, Chris.
Absolutely. So they can go to myvitalc.com/TSHL, right? So the superhuman life, TSHL. And then when you get on that page, you can find our products. A typical subscription might be $100. Go ahead and, a typical bottle might be $100. Go ahead and go on subscription. There's a 20%, 25% savings when you go on subscription, and you can cancel that at any time. So take advantage of that discount. Also take advantage of the coupon code TSHL, also TSHL, and that'll get you an additional $15 off. We just launched a face serum, just kind of the long and short story behind the face serum. I know there's a bunch of guys here. I was not a face serum guy. In fact, when one of our partners approached me and was like, let's do a face serum, I was like, Patty, I don't know that I want it. Like, I don't care. Like, so let's do this. The reviews about the face serum have just been phenomenal. I use it on a daily basis now. And the story behind it was we were getting skin and hair improvement testimonials just from people consuming the product, right? So just people taking it internally. And then some of our customers, if they spilled any, they would put it on their face. And then they started giving us testimonials about even improvements there. So we kind of put together this great product, and it's the MyVitalC face serum. So again, go on subscription, take advantage of that discount, and you can cancel that at any time.
Got it. And the coupon code that we discussed does work for the subscription as well. So you get 25% off the subscription, and then you can apply an additional $15 to that. So guys, we'll drop that down there, but it's myvitalc.com/TSHL. Coupon code is TSHL to give you an additional $15 off. And then like Chris said, sign up for the subscription, get the first one in. And then I'm assuming as long as if you're not going to stay on the subscription, because you even said it here, test it out. And if you're not getting benefits within the first week or two, cancel the subscription before it auto bills you guys. But that's absolutely incredible. And the face serum stuff, guys, I've been getting a monthly facial, fully transparent here. Like, I don't care. Obviously, I'm on camera all the time. Guys, I get a monthly facial, and I've been using a vitamin C serum. Like, I put a serum on both in the morning, and then I have a night serum. So I'm really curious, and maybe that's one that I can try out from you, Chris, just to see if it's any different as far as the benefits I'm getting. But
yes.
Yeah, guys, like it's not non-masculine to take care of your skin. This is the only face that you were given. So take care of it. Like there's nothing feminine about putting product on your face. So maybe that'll just be my added two cents there from a big giant dude that does have a facial regimen. Well, Chris, this has been really a really fascinating conversation. Obviously, we have one question that we end every single episode here. You may know it's coming, you may not. But we talked a little bit about, before we hit record, kind of the genesis of this podcast. It's been my own story that ultimately led me here. But Chris, when I talk about living a superhuman life, for me, it's really a belief system. It's a way that I see the world, and I try to show up and live in the world every single day. And it's first understanding or coming from the belief that I do believe that we were all created for a purpose. Every single person listening to this, Chris has a calling on his life. Frank has a calling. Every single listener out there, there's something that you're supposed to be doing, but that's only half of the equation. You were given certain gifts, but it's your ability to identify those gifts, it's your job to identify those gifts and then actually live your life intentional in far as developing them and then taking those skills out there to serve the world. So when I talk about living a super life, it's really the combination of believing you're here for a purpose, but then you taking actual action every single day to manifest and bring that purpose for the better, for the better good of the world. So long-winded definition of how I describe living a superhuman life, but I like to end every single episode here with getting the guest take. So Chris Burres, as we end here today, how would you define living a superhuman life?
Oh, that's great. Well, I can talk about how I approach, because I think we're very much in line, and how I approach kind of living a superhuman life. And I'm very lucky. I actually mentioned a guy to you before we got on air. His name is Patrick Wanis. He's an amazing, really therapist, and he has a process called subconscious rapid transformation technique. And I think really the superhuman life is born out of the journey. And you've got a destination for the journey, right? Which is, hey, identify that skill set, right? So you can figure out your calling, identify the skill set that supports that calling, and then like work diligently to apply that skill set to that calling. And I think I probably wasn't as far along as that, where I'm just like, hey, just understand how you work, right? If you just start to understand like what causes you to tick, being self-reflective, approaching and seeking out improvements in yourself in frankly in a daily basis, at least a weekly basis, better in a daily basis. And for me, I mentioned Patrick because that's it's a tool that I have that I know a lot of people don't have. And by the way, one of my callings is to get his SRTT process out to more people. So I'm actually working with him on marketing strategies on a weekly basis. And that ability to get in and understand and heal the things that are holding you back from what your calling is and what your skill set is that you can apply to that calling, I think is the superhuman life, right? Is living that superhuman life. Work hard, and it's probably some of the hardest things you'll do. I also like to call it an investment, and there is no place better to invest than in yourself. And so that's what I would say.
No, amen to that. And I agree 100%. Like, this is all we have. Like, investing in anything else outside of you. I mean, I don't want to say it's not important, but it's got to start here, because you are the only person that's going to go with you everywhere else you go. So you got to be grounded, and you got to be happy, and you got to be growing. And I love just the work mode, the work mindset. I have a mentor. He says the work works on you more than you work on the work. So just start working, and the next thing will reveal itself to you. So Chris, this has been truly fascinating conversation. Really love that we kind of hit on a lot of different topics here today. I achieved my goal multiple times of getting some things that I haven't heard you. And I haven't listened to everything that you've put out there because I don't have the time or really desire to do that. But this has been really fascinating. Guys, go check out MyVitalC. Hopefully Chris and I will figure something out. I'm definitely going to get my hands on some, and hopefully we'll be reporting back some positive results here, guys. Obviously, I am one that tries to check as many boxes as I possibly can. So if it works, and I'll let you guys know. But Chris has been incredible. Thank you for your time here. We'll drop all those links down there below. And guys, if you're out there, we want to continue to thank you for supporting the show. As we've been reminding you guys week over week here, we're seeing tremendous growth, and this message is just getting out there into the world. So if you want to continue to help us and get this in front of more people, you can support us in one of two ways. First off, if you haven't done so yet, make sure to leave us a 5-star rating and written review, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, whatever platform you are out there. But more important, if there's somebody in your life that needs to hear today's conversation. Maybe they're going through some things, and maybe they've been struggling with sleep. Maybe they're they just need some help on the biohacking side. Do us a favor, and then the blessing of sharing this conversation. But for Chris Burres of MyVitalC, Frank Rich, Superhuman Life, we love you guys. We'll see you next week.